It's Sunday, July 10th, 2022. I don't even know where to begin today, but I'm going to begin with saying this. We got big trouble. This economy is in severe crisis mode. And I cannot stress to all of you enough of how bad it is right now and how much worse it is going to get. I was reading some numbers last night, and I'm going to share those with you in a minute, just regarding what's happening in the auto market and the crisis now that we have in the auto industry. But we'll get to that in a minute. I want to talk about gold, the importance of owning gold. Dave Ramsey thinks you shouldn't own gold. If you have it, you should sell it. I totally disagree, and I think he's going to be proven very wrong. We'll talk about that too. But I believe the CPI comes out on Wednesday. And what are the odds of that coming in hotter than expected? Corporate earnings begin this week also. So I believe we're going to see some volatility on Wall Street this week also. Elon Musk notifies Twitter he's terminating deal. Is he really terminating the deal, or is this just his strategy of just breaking down Twitter and getting a better price? I don't really know. I don't know. But is this going to have an effect on the market tomorrow? And what happens to Twitter tomorrow morning when markets open? Are we going to begin to see Twitter collapse? If Elon Musk walks away, does Twitter just collapse? Or is this just a strategy of his? Is he pushing Twitter into a corner, forcing a better price? Comment down below. But I want to get into this article I was reading last night, and I was blown away. There was an article on Experian credit report, and this came out a few weeks ago. And I was reading it last night. I don't know how I didn't come across this earlier, but it's on Experian, and you can look at highest auto repo states in the US. And just to clarify something, from 2018 to 2019, there were 1.8 million repos in the US. This year alone, in 2022, we're just halfway through the year, there have already been 2.2 million auto repos. There are going to be so many used cars for sale in America, they're not going to know what to do with them. Just like I believe there's going to be so much home inventory. This is where we begin to see deflation in America. It's going to happen in housing. It's going to happen in the auto industry. And when we gave people all this free money last year to sit at home, produce nothing, do nothing, giving them, $600 benefit checks every week, stimulus checks, child tax credits, telling people they didn't have to pay rent, the rent moratorium. So people weren't paying their bills. So what did they do? Well, they went out and bought new cars, and they overpaid for these new cars. And many people didn't have great credit. They came in with $20,000, $30,000 down on a new Challenger, new Charger that was overpriced, and they drove off with it, thinking that, I guess, the free money was going to last forever, that they would never have to pay rent, they would never have to go back to work. Well, now the cash flow has dissolved. There are no more stimmies. There are no more $600 benefit checks. And now these people who put down $20,000, $30,000 on these cars cannot make those $900 or $1,000 car payments. And the repo man's very, very busy. And you have to ask yourself, we'll talk about this too, what's going to happen to the banks that made these extremely risky loans? So as we drive by the car lots today, we go, wow, where are all the cars? There's no cars. There are thousands of cars piling up at the auto auction, sitting on hundreds of acres of asphalt. That's where they're at right now. And those cars are eventually going to make their way to those dealerships on those used car lots. They're coming. Again, this is the mentality, the thinking that people had. Let me put down $20,000, $30,000 of this free money that the government gave me on a new Hellcat or a new Challenger or a new Charger, and I'm going to drive off with it, and I'll worry about it tomorrow. Well, tomorrow is here, ladies and gentlemen, and the repo man is very, very busy. And these banks, you know, the too big to fails, who made these extremely risky loans, they were financing up to over 140% on some of these vehicles. And they're going to be lucky if they recoup 70, 80% on these vehicles. Again, remember, we're always told that, you know, these are the too big to fails. The people that went and bought these cars, and I'm not just saying they're Chargers and Challengers, Camrys, Sentras, Maximas, you name it, SUVs, pickup trucks. These people are on the hook. So when these cars get repoed, they go to auction, the borrower pays the difference. But the borrower is completely broke. So that leaves the bank really completely on the hook for these bad loans. And they're going to have to write off these bad loans. The revenue that they're going to lose on these cars, they're never going to recover from these losses. And this just reminds me so much of the housing market back in 2008. And I have to ask myself, where was the regulation in the auto industry? Why was this allowed to happen? Why were these risky loans allowed to happen? And how long until these banks come running to the taxpayer for a bailout? Because this means a lot of lost revenue that they lent way too much over the value of these automobiles. And they're never going to recover the losses. And they lent out billions of dollars on these autos. Extremely risky. This tells me the too big to fails will come running to the taxpayer yet again, demanding a bailout. Because the buyers are broke that bought these cars, leaving these banks on the hook, the too big to fails, who made extremely risky loans, and to me, they should pay the price for making these risky loans. These too big to fails who are going to come begging or demanding the taxpayer give them a bailout, these banks should fail, ladies and gentlemen, just like they should have failed back in 2008 for making the risky real estate loans. And remember, real estate follows what happens in the auto markets. Real estate is 6 to 12 months behind the auto market. So what we are beginning to see happen right now, where cars are being repossessed, people are defaulting, people are not paying their car payment, that's coming to the real estate market. Also, quick note, they did this with RVs and they did this with boats. How many bad loans are out there with all these RVs now, the campers, the boats? These are 10 to 15 year loans. How many more bad loans were made in those industries? Absolutely incredible. So I want to share the data with you now from Experian, and it gives the delinquency numbers by state. Now, I'm not going to go over every state, but I'll go over a few of them with you. Let's start with the top 10 worst delinquent states in the U.S. for car delinquencies. New York, 10.1%. 10.1% of auto loans in New York are delinquent. Hawaii, 10.3%. North Carolina, 10.3%. South Carolina, 10.5%. Maryland, 10.6%. Alabama, 11.4%. Georgia, 12.1%. Think about this, ladies and gentlemen. These are the delinquency numbers for 30 plus days, 30, 60, 90 days delinquent in these states, double digits. So think about that. Over 1 out of 10 cars that is being financed is delinquent right now. Georgia, 12.1%. Louisiana, 12.8%. Mississippi, 15.1%. Get this, the number one state of auto delinquency, Washington, D.C., 23.4%. Yes, 23.4%. So literally 1 out of 4 car loans in Washington, D.C. is delinquent. Absolutely incredible. And just a couple other states here. Texas, 10.1%. Nevada, 9.5%. Florida, 9%. You have a real estate boom in Texas, a real estate boom in Nevada, a real estate boom in Florida. Tennessee, 8.7% of auto loans are delinquent. Arizona, 8.6% auto loans delinquent. California, 8.7%. So again, Texas, Nevada, Florida, Tennessee, Arizona, and California, all seeing a housing boom. FOMO, fear of missing out, people overbidding on homes. And in these markets, look at the delinquencies in the auto loan delinquencies in these booming states. That tells me that we're going to see big trouble in these states and many other states across America in the real estate sector coming probably in the next 6 to 12 months. Now, what was also interesting in the article is they broke it down to the average lease payment of this in the state, average loan payment in the state. And what was fascinating was the loan or the lease payment was very similar. And so that tells me people leasing cars were leasing cars that with very little down, cars that they really couldn't afford, so they leased them, put very little down, and are paying a pretty high lease payment. So we're going to have big trouble without a doubt. Very big trouble. So, again, this, is a society of big shots, the wannabes, leasing cars for $500 or $600 or $700. And in most of these states, the loan payment, the lease payment is $500-600. I mean, not $1,000, not $1,200. But think about how many people now are leasing cars or have a loan payment of $1,000 or more, and how much trouble they're in. It's unbelievable what we're seeing take place, and the data is not lying. And if these people, think about this, ladies and gentlemen, if these people are struggling right now to make a car payment, a lease payment, when did they begin to struggle to make the rent or the house payment? Or is that already happening right now and it's just not being reported? How are these people even putting gasoline in these cars? If you can't make a car payment, how are you putting in $5, $6, or $7 gasoline in that car? And what happens to these people when the repo man finally makes the visit, takes the car? How do these people ever get to work? If they're not working, how do they ever get a job? How do they go to the grocery store? How do they take the kids to school? This is a big and a very serious problem, and it's telling us something that is coming. Extremely risky loans were made. People paid more than the car was worth, just like they paid more for the house than what the house was worth. I believe we have a lot of risky real estate loans out there. I know that, everybody has a 700 plus FICO, and the buyers are more responsible, and the banks were more stringent this time. But let's face it, most people put down the bare minimum, 3%, 4%, or 5%. They did a Fannie or Freddie Mae minimum down, and now they're in big trouble. They're going to have a problem also with cash flow as people are getting laid off, as spouses are getting laid off. You need 2 incomes now to survive. Your husband or wife loses a job, game over. You're losing the car, you're losing the house. My advice today is, if you can sell the car now while you can, if you can. Sell the house now if you can. This isn't financial advice. This is me thinking out loud. This is what I would tell a family member. Get out of this while you can, if you can even get out of this. Things are beginning to turn. The housing market cooling off. The auto market, the used car market definitely cooling off. And once the chips come in for the new autos, who's going to buy these cars? People are going to have destroyed credit, massive layoffs, inflation eating them alive. Their savings have been absolutely decimated. Who's going to be able to buy a car or a house a year from now? Please comment down below and answer me that. So much damage has happened this year in the stock market, in the crypto market. It's affecting a lot of these people. The party's over, ladies and gentlemen. The party is over. So I want to switch gears here for a second, and I want to talk about a show I was watching on YouTube a few days ago. It was a Dave Ramsey show. And this is not a personal attack on Dave Ramsey. I actually like Dave Ramsey. I don't agree with everything Dave Ramsey says, but I've been kind of taken back the last couple weeks with Dave Ramsey. Now, I enjoy the channel, I enjoy the show because of the callers that call in and their economic circumstances that they call in about, and the economic situations that a lot of people put themselves in with student loan debt, auto debt, credit card debt. And it really fascinates me listening to some of these people call in that owe, $100, $200, $500,000 in debt on credit cards and student loans and auto debt. And so I find the show pretty fascinating. And I think, Dave Ramsey's a smart guy. And again, this is not a personal attack on Dave Ramsey, but the last couple weeks, I've really had to shake my head with some of the advice Dave Ramsey has given his callers. And just about 2 days ago, somebody called in and said they were getting married, and they are an Indian family, and in the Indian culture, they give gold at the wedding to the people who are getting married, and that's their culture. And I love it. I think that's incredible. And if you look at India as a country, they hold a lot of gold, and they believe in gold, and so do I. And the gentleman says, Dave, what am I going to do with this gold? I'm probably going to get about $50,000 in gold at the wedding. What do I do, with this gold? And just to kind of paraphrase, Dave just says, look, don't hurt anybody's feelings. Hold on to the gold for a year and then sell it for cash. And I almost fell out of my chair. Sell it for cash. We're told every day about the strength of the dollar because of the dollar index. And how do we get the strength of the dollar? They compare it to other worthless paper fiat currencies. And so we're the least sickest puppy in the litter. Now, the dollar overall has lost 97% of its purchasing power. But when you compare it to other sick puppies, it's the least sickest puppy in the litter. And I just cannot believe that type of advice. I would say hold on to that gold. And the gentleman goes, my dad's been holding on to his gold for over 30 years and it's sitting in a bank vault and he's never touched it. Fantastic. Now, I would say get it out of that bank safe deposit box and get it into your own bank, in your own personal bank, be your own central bank. Hold it yourself, because if you don't hold it, you don't own it. Your money and your gold and your assets are not safe. They're not secure sitting in a safe deposit box in some bank. You need to be responsible for you. But getting back to what this gentleman said, well, his dad's never touched the gold. That's because he hasn't had to. It's insurance. It's wealth protection. And this gentleman doesn't understand the value of gold and what it's for. It's not to make money. It's not for a quick flip. You hold it, you put it away, you don't think about it. It's there for emergency. It's there to protect wealth. It's there in case anything happens to the US dollar. It's there for an economic crash. It's there for hyperinflation. It's there to buy you food when nobody's taking paper fiat currency. That's what it's there for. It is a life jacket when the ship is sinking. And Dave Ramsey, shame on him, telling somebody to sell their gold and replace that gold with paper. A currency that is devalued 97%. Ladies and gentlemen, I've talked about this before. I've used this analogy. You go back 100 years ago, and you and I want to go out and buy a nice suit. A nice suit would cost about $20. 100 years ago, gold was around $20 an ounce. We go into a store, you buy a suit with a $20 bill, I take an ounce of gold, and I buy the same suit. Fast forward to today. You could not even buy the buttons on that suit with that $20 bill. Me, on the other hand, I can take that ounce of gold and I can convert it into, I don't know, where are we at, $1,780 of fiat currency, and I could go buy the same suit today. Dave Ramsey told this gentleman to sell his gold for cash, this devaluing currency. And I am a believer that you need to be holding cash right now, but you better be holding real physical gold right now also. In fact, I think you really better be counting your wealth not in dollars, but in ounces. Dave Ramsey a couple weeks ago said that this is the best time to buy a home, that home prices aren't going to go down, that they're going to go up, that if you're going to buy a house, this is the time to do it. I completely 110% disagree. And I think the data backs that up. We're seeing the housing market cool down. We're seeing listings explode, days on market going up. And we're going to continue to see this while people are getting laid off, losing cash flows. People can't make the auto payments, can't put gas in the cars, reliant now on the credit cards to go grocery shopping. And you really believe that the real estate market is going to continue to go up? I'm getting price reductions weekly from multiple states. I'm going on social media now. I see the big shot real estate agents now reducing prices on properties that they just listed a couple weeks ago. And many of these real estate agents now have nothing in escrow. The big shots that would go on daily, weekly on social media and say, look, I just sold another house for $100,000 over asking price. I found another sucker. Those days are over, ladies and gentlemen. But I just wanted to respond and comment on the Dave Ramsey show, because I've seen a lot of people on social media talk about it, especially on the real estate advice he gave, that this is now the time to buy a house. This is not financial advice, ladies and gentlemen. But if you were a relative of mine, if you were a family member, a friend, I would tell you, do not, whatever you do not buy a house right now. Walk away. Do not even think about doing it right now. Give it 6 to 12 months and see where we're at. And whatever you do not sell gold. This is the time to be buying gold, ladies and gentlemen. This is the time to be backing up the truck. I buy it when it goes up. I buy it when it goes down. I have a link down below, SD Bullion. If you need a reliable source to buy gold or silver, because silver's coming along for the ride, go to my link down below, SD Bullion. I don't care if you buy gold and silver. I really don't. That's up to you. If you do buy it, I don't care where you buy it from. That's who I buy it from, because many of you recommended SD Bullion to me, and I've been using SD Bullion now for every one of my purchases over the last 3+ years. And I have nothing bad to say about them. Super competitive. They've been nothing but super professional, reliable. And SD Bullion, check out the link down below. I'm going to leave it there today. But I just wanted to talk about that, because it really kind of bugged me. And I don't like calling anybody out. Again, I like Dave Ramsey, but I know that he's heavily invested in the real estate market. He's never liked gold. He just, I don't think he really understands history. And I think he believes this is his dad's Wall Street, that this is his dad's stock market. It is not your dad's stock market anymore. The dollar is not what it was 20, 30, or 50 years ago. There is so much happening globally, and there's going to be so much competition coming to the US dollar between Russia and China and the BRIC nations that we need to be preparing for it. We need to be getting a step ahead of things right now, ladies and gentlemen. It is crucial. We are in a critical time now where we could wake up one day and just absolutely be in shock at what's just happened. You know, people just think that things are going to crash instantly, overnight. We're watching this crash take place in slow motion. But I do truly believe that at some point it is going to accelerate. And we've seen some warnings on Wall Street. Do I believe that the markets at some point are going to really crash? Yes, I do. Do I believe we're going to see rallies? Yes, we could see some big rallies come to these markets. And then people will be like, everything's fine, JB, everything's fine. See, you were wrong, you were wrong. No, we're going to see rallies. I'm aware of that. The market is going to go up, but I believe we're going to see lower highs and lower lows. And I do believe these markets are going to crash. And I believe that you need to prepare for this. You do need to have cash, but you better have gold. You better have silver. You better have a plan. You better have food. You better have water. You better have security. You better have a lot of things, ladies and gentlemen. You better have a lot of things ready, because when it all comes down, all you're going to have is what you can get to and what you hold. That's it. Don't rely on going to your bank. Don't rely on calling SD Bullion up and going, I need 10 ounces of gold. It's not going to happen. It's too late. You may not even be able to go to your grocery store for a while. You may not be able to get money out of your ATM for a while. We're going to see big things happening. We've all saw what happened in Canada as their internet was down, as people could not get to their banks and get money out of their banks. ATMs were down. Do you really want to be in a situation where you cannot get to your money for weeks at a time, a month? I mean, think about the danger you're putting your family in, the risk you're putting yourself in. Why not be safe and be your own central bank today? Be responsible for you. Be your own security detail. Don't rely on picking up a phone and calling for help, because help may not be there for you. You are going to have to rely on you, physically, financially. Walk close to God, ladies and gentlemen. It's a beautiful Sunday. Walk close to God. Say your prayers. Thank God for what you have right now. And thank God today, tonight, that He has woken you up and allowed you to prepare, because you are now taking action. How many people do you know right now who are taking no action, oblivious? They're not walking close to God. He's opened your eyes, your ears. You know something is very, very wrong. Stay on path. Continue preparing. This is going to be a very, very long, hard marathon that we're going to be put through. These people who think this is just going to be a short sprint, that this recession, depression will be over before you know it. We're going to see a very long, rough time right here in America, socially, financially, politically. And you better get ready to dig in, because this is going to be a rough one. God bless. Have a great weekend. Look forward to talking to all of you very, very soon. Share this video. Give it a thumbs up. And make sure you subscribe. God bless.